Oh, really?
What a great spot.
What a Dollywood, man.
I'd like to call to order the East Ascension Drainage Meeting of June 5th, 2017. The Secretary, Mr. Turner and Mr. Johnson are out tonight. Mr. Clough, would you please lead us with the invocation followed by the pledge?
Would everybody please stand? In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity. Lord, we ask that you look over the people of Ascension Parish. Let us get through this rain as everyone is on the edge, trying to get in their homes, and the delays. We ask that you look over the parish, look over our area as we come into this hurricane season. We have a lot of distress, a lot of tension. Folks are crippled. Let's ask that you bring us through this hurricane season without further pain. Lord, it's with a heavy heart that we ask you to pray for the Ramirez family, for the loss of past council member Johnny Ramirez. And we ask that you look over his family and carry him through this. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak on any item, please sign in with Ms. Deborah. We'll move on to number 4, the acceptance of the minutes for the month of May.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
By
Second.
Ms. Johnny, second by Ms. Terry. There'll be no chairman's report. Move on to number 6, drainage report, Mr. Rue.
Yes, sir. Chairman, members, commissioners, we're going to give a report, and I have some handouts from 3 of our major consultants firms on some capital projects. And we're going to begin. Before I start that, though, let me just say that we did have a little bit of a problem this afternoon, mostly in the Prairieville area from 74 across 73, the area around Southwood Village, and on to Old Jefferson Highway area around Jefferson Crossing. It seemed like a band came through there and dumped as much as 4 to 5 inches in a short amount of time. So we don't have any reports of any structural flooding for its homes, but it came close to a few places, and we have some roads that were blocked from the drainage. Everything south of that is open, so it should drain down pretty quick, but it just had a heavy cell, dumped a lot of rain in a short amount of time. We have been manning the pumping stations, but we haven't been able to pump very much because of the low level at the other end. But we are manning, or have people in the area of Prairieville right now, putting out some signs for road blockages and monitoring the situation to see if anybody needs any help. So I just want to make that announcement right now. We're going to begin a report on the levy certification project. We have HNTB here. Discuss their schedule. And again, this is the format that we can be using future to make sure you understand where we at on the different things, projects, where the amount of money being spent, and we can use these type of schedules to update on a monthly basis, so everybody's well aware of the status of these projects.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to present the status of HNTB's levy certification project. I have with me Melissa Kennedy. She has been the task lead and integral partner for this project. As you all know, over the past 2 years, we have presented to the commissioners and the council a number of times, and we have brought in the best and brightest of HNTB to support this work. Till date, as you'll see in your handout, we have completed 7 task orders. Task orders number 8 and 9, we have just started on it, so we have 7 task orders that are 100% complete. All deliverables, all data, and associated reports have been submitted in both hard copy as well as electronic format to the parish for use by any other authorized individuals. We are just embarking on task order 8 and task order 9. That's where you'll have a 1% progress on that. I just wanted to let you all know that it's been an honor to work for Ascension Parish over the past 2 years under Bill's leadership and you all support. I think we have made some significant progress towards making this parish safer and moving forward with the sustainability of this parish when it comes to flood protection and levee certification. With that, I'll keep it short and brief and would answer any questions this time.
Any questions? Mr. Dawson?
Give us a second.
Sorry, on, first up, first Bill, thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
the schedule, and so let me ask, can I ask this on the cost that you have in that column, is that the predicted cost, is that the actual?
That
what-
is the
what number is
contracted
that?
cost.
Contracted cost,
Yes, sir.
so we don't know what the actual cost is that correct?
Well, this is what we contract HNTB, so that's their,
So these are, if I may, everything is invoiced at 100% through task order 7. The cost column is the actual invoice to the,
Through
Parish,
task order
yes.
7,
correct. 8 and 9, we're working on it.
okay. Of course, we'd love to see these. Again, I appreciate you having them. We'd love to have them. Myself, I'd love to have them a little bit ahead of the meeting, so we're not
I just.
trying to digest all this in
And
2 minutes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, sir. And the reason, we just received some of this today. We've been kind of going back and forth with consultants to make sure each one is pretty much on the same page. We want the same format, and so when you look at one, it's very similar to each of the other projects. So that's the reason, but by the time we have our next meeting, we'll absolutely have this before you, at least a week before.
Okay.
And with a lot of other information that we're gathering for us operations and the data that we're gathering, work orders and stuff like this. So we'll
Okay.
get that to you a week before when we send out the agendas.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So Audrey, on this task order number 8, Conway and Panama, so, I mean, I don't know, you have 1% on that is my appreciation. I was under the impression that we had done a lot more work than that. What am I missing here?
This is actually the follow-on of the task order 5.1. So that is what we had presented in terms of through our analysis and modeling, what areas we compared the current BFEs based on the models with the FEMA BFEs. So this task order was actually the formulation of the LOMAR and then application of the LOMAR. So
So does this take care of the A,
yes.
this
This
takes
is
care of
for
flood
the
zones A?
This is for the AE zones where
Right.
where you have to go through a LOMAR process. In regard to the zone A's, we have the BFEs that you can adopt per FEMA recommendation through an ordinance and adopt that locally.
So I guess I'm still confused. So when are we gonna have these, be able to have these BFEs that we can adopt as a council and we can provide some relief to the resident?
The BFEs are already submitted as part of our deliverable for task order 5.1. So you have it ready as we speak.
We don't have it ready.
Well, DPW, I mean, in our report,
Or I haven't seen it if we do.
in our report, we have the BFEs identified in a tabular format,
We have received the draft report, we're reviewing it right now.
Yeah.
And we will, if you wish, we can get with a few of the council, yourself and a few others to review it in the meeting
Well, I'm not
And we
asking
can
for
kinda
any
go into
individual
detail with
attention, I'm just, what we need is, again, my impression is that we can give some people, relief as far as their insurance rates that are within these zones. And that, what it requires is an ordinance by the council. So, I'd appreciate anything that we can do towards moving that along.
Right, and again, I'll go ahead and send it to all of you, but I know this really affects just a couple council members on that end. And what I would like to do is schedule a meeting with the council members within that basin and sit down and go through it in detail and discuss it, and then see the path forward, exactly what we recommend, but also get the agreement on it. And
Okay,
before we
so-
break, and we can do this before the next council meeting or
Right.
commission meeting and have it resolved, so when we come, everybody's
Is
on the
there,
same page.
are there any plans to have any, public meetings for that?
That'll be the other thing that we will discuss once we determine exactly the path forward and how the commissioners would like yourself and the rest of the commission would like to proceed. Then we'll go ahead with some meetings in that area, public meetings to discuss it. But again, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page first.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kluwak.
Yeah, Bill, can I get a clarification? I was trying to look at the spreadsheet, and you said a number of which one you were talking about, and is it down there, you talking about line item number 13?
15. 15 shows 1% complete task
Right.
order number 8.
Okay. Because Audrey had mentioned, you had mentioned 5.1. and
Right.
so
Yeah,
on.
well, undoubtedly, they're tied together. I don't know.
Okay.
That is correct. Just for clarification, the results of the completion of line item 13, which is task order 5.1, this is the next step to actually filing the LOMAR with FEMA and getting it approved.
I don't understand why that take a year.
We have about, based on our discussion with FEMA, about 3 to 4 months of review period in there. Once we submit the application to FEMA, it's completely at their court. So we have put in some float based on our discussion with FEMA. Review
That's the
States.
LOMAR, but that's not the
Lamp.
getting the BFEs established in the areas that don't have them. Is that correct?
BFEs are established. That was our final deliverable through task order 5.1.
Oh, we don't have them
It's
established.
in the draft
It's in
report,
the
it's in
draft.
the
Yeah.
report that's going to y'all, that we're gonna meet on and discuss it in detail.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm finished now.
Yeah, thank you. I just want a clarification now I want to speak. All right, not giving up the mic yet. On line item number 4, task order number 3, the Marlboro Pump Station Backflow Prevention Study. What was the finalization on that?
We just provided some recommendation, a very preliminary recommendation, and I think BKI is working on the rest of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one thing, Commissioners, that a lot, in fact, almost everything that's in the total task that's getting HNTB are being reused right now in some of these other projects. Both BKI is using some for their permitting or their task in the St. James project and stuff like this. GSA is using a lot of the data and the model and stuff that was performed and presented in this project. They're using actually all of that information in their project for the Panama. And a lot of it, of course, was done as part of the August event, flood event, which we're using throughout our, in fact, it's the basis for our future projects that we all will be going to GOSEP and the state and federal government with for some mega projects that we're looking at. In fact, I'll be at the next meeting, I'll bring to you a list of the next 5 years for projected projects, all the ones that's already been approved, but also some projects that we're going to recommend as part of the GOSEP money and the federal money coming in. And the timeline for the next 5 years, how much could be expended through the next 5 years, and also a prediction of revenues coming in for the next 5 years. So it'd be pretty much a pro forma type report. So you look at expenses and revenues and see where we stand after 5 years. So this is coming to you at next meeting also.
Okay. All right, next line item, number 5, task order number 4, the Restore Act on hold. You showing a start date of one day and finishing the same day. We got
Yes.
16 grand on that.
That is-
What's up with that?
That is actually the amount that's remaining. We were tasked at that point to look at when the Restore Act application, which is the BP Deepwater Horizon project, when the grants came in, we started looking at some of the guidelines from the U.S. Treasury and working with CPR and the governor's office, but that project is on hold. The objective or the end goal of that was to come up with what they call a multi-year implementation plan, or MYIP, where we give the Treasury, and at least through the governor's office, a brief idea of what your projects would be. So we are on hold and pause. That money is available for use.
Right now, we have in a
What is the
400
total available possible?
About a 460,000, I think.
Currently, yes. So when we were looking at it, so now that the settlement is complete and all the formula, they have 5 different parts, and there's specific formula in which the money is being distributed. So I believe over next 15 years, and I have to go back and recall the numbers, it's just a tad over $1 million to Ascension Parish. But that's trickle down over 15 years. But as of right now, I think the available money is about $463,000.
When that gets cleared, Bill and Audrey, are we gonna be able to assign that to a task, a
We actually
project,
can use-
as
we
we
can-
name? I know
We
we
can
gotta
do it now.
Yes.
And be able to carry it out through the entirety of the money?
What we're hoping to do, and in fact, we've been looking, what we'd like to do is to task that money directly to a project that can be totally funded with that money.
With that money?
If we can. And so we're kind of holding it back. We're not losing it. It's there. It can't go anywhere. We just find the right place to put it.
Yeah, because this event's going on 7 years, you know, and
Yes. So this-
Uh,
and
yeah.
as
the
soon
final
as
stages of the money, you know, disbursement is already been addressed, you know? So-
correct, the money is going to come. There again, the rules are in place right now. It's all been finalized. The disbursement is complete. All the parish needs to do is to submit a multi-year implementation plan that needs to be approved by U.S. Treasury and the council. And then you just list a preliminary list of projects and an estimate. It goes in, they approve it, and then you have to submit a detailed cost and fee for it, and you have to go through the procurement process to go after it.
Yeah, I just want everybody to be aware of the amount
That
that's
is correct.
available and how.
I can give you an update on exactly how much money is and what the disbursement schedule is over the next 15 years. That's available.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is part of the next meeting, prior to the next meeting, again, at least a week, maybe more, I'll send you this pro forma review of projects that we're suggesting. I'm adding a few, to the prior list of projects with all the funding that we necessary and revenues coming in. So at the next meeting, we can discuss, and if you wanna adopt it, we can adopt it. And we can, or amend it, whatever is your pleasure, and then we can possibly use that plan, because it is a multi-year plan, 5 to 6 years, to get some of this money.
Great.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Kawhi?
Yeah, just finally on the LAMP process, on the levy certification. What's our chances of success?
Based on analysis and in discussion with FEMA on the final presentation, the LAMP method or the approach that we put in would not provide any benefits in terms of flood protection or risk. So we paused on that, and all the data and all the studies would be available if you all want to move forward towards a 100-year accreditation process.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lawler?
Yeah, and you may have already stated this, Chinese water torture going on over here. In my head. Talking about the FEMA approval of the submission and the FEMA process, where do we stand on that?
You're talking about the now line
yeah.
17?
Yes, 16, 17.
So what we are going to do is, through number 16, we are going to develop the application, and then we submit it to FEMA Region 6, and then there's a process internally. I don't want to get into the technicalities of it, but if it's more than, I think, three frames of the FEMA flood map, it has to go through their headquarters and an approval process. So I think based on the timeline, it's anywhere between 270 days, 290 days to about 270 days. So we are hoping, because we have engaged FEMA from the very beginning, and they have been aware of our studies, they have been engaged, and they've been in the loop, we think we can shorten the timeline a little bit, but I did not want to overpromise in terms of schedule, just because it's not in our control at this time.
I'd like to, this really has nothing to do with y'all, but see if we can offer a resolution either at this meeting or the next, asking our congressional delegation to assist in having FEMA speed this process along.
That would be of great help.
That would be a good resolution.
Bill, you take care of that for the
Yes, sir.
resolution? Good, good. Mr. Sadler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And RT and Bill, I would like to reiterate two things, and then I have a question that Councilman Dawson started with. This is good to have this, and I assume we're going to get it from 2 other engineering firms. In fact, I talked to one of them coming in who said he's fine with it, and I assume, RT, you're fine with it too, because I think what's happened, if we're going to task you to do this, you go to them now, and it's something that they can and should do. But the part about let's do this ahead of handing it out at the meeting, it's just absolutely necessary, because you really can't digest it. But from what I've digested so forth, that leads to my one and only question right now. I may have others if I look at it longer. In answer to Councilman Dawson's question about what does that cost one column really mean, I believe, Artree, you said it was, quote, contracted costs. And when I look at this, all the costs that are incurred look like they were, well, you said that they were invoiced through task order number 7, which, of course, like all of its brethren before it and all the way down to soon to be on June 27th, task order 14, have expired. In fact, all those blue bars, I know the audience can't see this, all those initial task orders up to 14 say that they're 100% complete. So that to me would mean that the contracted cost was the actual cost.
That is correct.
And so all it could really change at this point of the original $3.1 million contract with your firm would be the area Mr. Lawler was quizzing you about a minute ago. I guess that would be 15, 16, 17, 18, where we're getting into the Loma situation on Bayou Conway, Panama Canal, and the formal submission as well as approval of that submission by FEMA, and you know, sort of where do we go from here? So is that an accurate reading? And if so, how can you keep billing task order number 7 if it's complete for things yet to occur?
Let me answer this in 2 ways. First and foremost, the costs that are only in bold, that are actually the cost of the task. So the subtasks are broken down just for your information. So task order 6, that number is a summation of 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way to 12. Secondly, you are correct. We have invoiced to the parish everything through task order 7. It is 100% complete. All that has been invoiced. That total number has been invoiced. So we are not going to invoice anything else. Okay?
You could perform the rest of the steps, but the money is
The
has
rest
been
of the
invoiced.
step, task order 5, line number 15 and line number 18 are the only
Well,
two
that brings up a real important question. So have we paid you the full 3.1 million, or?
No, that's what I'm saying. So
Okay.
those two haven't been started, so
Okay,
that's why it's 1% and 0% and 1%. So
okay. All right, I
you
think,
don't pay us in advance. I would love to do that, but
no, we can't and should not. And
I
that
know.
would make a real problem, obviously, but that's why I was asking. I think I do understand it. Again, I'd like to get this earlier that we can, and I won't even have to ask questions like this.
not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, sir, you know, we just finished up on it today, and I wanted to get to you tonight. I didn't want to wait another month. But also, we're tweaking this, and we've, in our program, in my program, I recap it, and we got expenditures. So what we probably do is put another column, and for actual payments, how much were invoiced next to the column, if it's, and it's easy to follow, then you know how much it originally cost, how much they were paid for it, and what percentage of payment was given to them. And it should match. I mean, you know, at any point in time, we don't want to, if it's a task is 50% complete, we don't want to see 100% payment, or it should pretty well match payment
Right.
to completion.
Right, well, it would eliminate certainly the suspicion of time value of money as
Absolutely.
relate to, you know, I used to go get my teeth cleaned and fixed by a dentist in back in the 60s, and I'll never will forget, Bill, there was a sign up on the wall. It said, "Payment is to be made as work progresses." And I often wondered that, you know, if I came in there that day with a toothache, was this man going to give me analgesia if I didn't have the money or what? But we can obviously ill afford to be paying anything ahead of time or anything like that. And once again, back to the trust issue with the people. I'm sure it's working okay. Just wanted to clarify it. People can't see even this graph on our monitors or anything of what was handed out tonight. So, and it becomes, as a result, what, a public record and so forth and so on. So I think like Bill Dawson said, let's just get it a little earlier and everything's going to be fine.
It can be totally transparent, and we will, you know, of course, police it pretty diligently.
Appreciate
you know, as
that.
we go, so.
And I have a question about the Southwood Village, because obviously it's in my district, but we can wait till the engineers are finished, or how do you want to handle that?
We'll wait, because we're going
All
to
right.
discuss some work orders and some other issues that.
Mr. Chairman, I just asked that when this is over, you recognize me for that.
Southwood Village, got
Yes.
you. Anyone else?
Yeah, real quick,
Yes, sir.
unless I'm missing it, did I miss task order number 6?
Task order number 6 was originally awarded, but then it was pulled back by the parish. So,
Okay,
Yeah.
good deal.
Ms. Kennedy, you had anything you wanted to
No, I'm good. Thank
get
you.
through? Walter?
but again, I just wanted to conclude. Thank you again. Thanks for all your help and support.
Good job.
Look forward to working with you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next victim.
We'll go next with Burke Klein Peter Engineering and a couple of projects, mainly the pump number 7 at Marvinboro Pump Station, and also the new task for the stop block and frontal protection.
Welcome, Henry.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to bring y'all up to speed. I'll wait till Bill kind of hands those out so y'all can kind of follow along. The pump station number 7 project is a project that's been ongoing since May of last year. There was a lot of long lead time for the pump, the gears, engine all to get fabricated and so forth, but the contractor did mobilize out on site in February. And currently, he's got the pump and the gear in. He's in the process of setting the engine and connecting the coolant piping and the other mechanical piping. He's also got some electrical work to do and some grading out in front of pump bay number 7. The important items on his list are, you know, the anchoring and aligning of the engine, installing the exhaust piping, and installing the electrical and the pump startup. Those are the critical path values. Those are marked in red on page number 2. And the contractor is on this schedule. It looks like he might be 10 days behind schedule. Some of his problems he's had was the gear that was originally bid by Timken. Timken was bought by GE. GE decided to manufacture it in France, and there was a little delay getting it across the water. But it's here, it's installed, so he's catching up on those kind of items. And I would say the pump will be ready in early July with the startup, and it will be complete and commissioned before the end of July, which will be in before the peak of the hurricane season.
Good deal.
Which is, I think, the most critical part to you guys. Any questions on pump number 7?
I had a question.
Mr. Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Henry, the pump, is it compatible to the other 6 or identical for?
It is identical to pump number 6.
Okay.
6 and 7 are not the same as 1 through 5 because of the 20-some-odd year
Right.
difference. But the engine,
All
the
Caterpillar.
gear, and the pump are all identical on 6 and 7. And that was one of the things we pushed with the contractor to minimize Bill's maintenance and parts, et cetera. So it was we were very lucky that the manufacturer, or the contractor did select Patterson pump, which was what we put in originally, and Patterson worked very hard to ensure that all the gears and engines were the same. We even got a Tier 2 engine, because we got it in time, so we wouldn't have to go to Tier 4, which has the higher emission controls.
It has cat engines.
So
on it.
you're not exactly green,
Yeah.
but you're compatible.
Yeah.
And on pump 7, it's just like pump 6, we have the improved impeller on it, and it's.
That is correct.
And it's the efficiency on it
Yes,
is better than 1 through 5.
Yes,
The
that is
20 years
correct.
Engineering forward, 20-something years.
Good job.
You got anything else, Mr. Lane?
That was it, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, and Henry, thank you as well. Same comment as I made to RT as far as getting this stuff ahead of time, because I'm sure that your engineering firm is going to be the one mostly preparing this stuff, Mr. Rue.
well, we did coordinate a little bit with the contractor.
Okay.
But we will get that to Bill ahead of time, so he can include that in
Right.
y'all's package.
Well, what I'd like to see further, and I just whispered in the sidebar to our chairman of the full council that I'm going to give him a homework assignment if he's willing to accept it. What I'd like to see is consistency engineering firm report-wise. For example, the one we just had from RT with HNTB, it has the task like you have, it has start and finish, but it has the percents, it has the monies involved, the timeline and by
You
quarter
will
which you
see
have.
that on the next one, which
Right.
we generated.
So we'd like to see the dollars and cents, and then the other column that Bill was just agreeing to put in as well. And then, in fact, when I say a homework assignment, maybe Mr. Dawson, since he's the one that started this, rightfully so too, that he would direct that process a little stronger and say, this is what we really as a council want to see in these reports. And consistently, if that message is sent to all engineering firms, every one of them will look alike, and it sure makes it easy on us.
Did you mean Mr. Roop?
No, I meant Mr. Dawson.
And again, sir,
I
we,
think he was
Working with
referring to
Mr.
the
Ray.
hammer and the nail.
right.
Right.
That is also our intention. Again, this was done really on email back and forth between the
Right.
three
I
engineering firms.
appreciate y'all not letting time go any further
Right.
in responding to requests by this council. Now I'm just looking for a little consistency, and I think it'd be a very easy step. So once again, we can check the monies by the finish and start dates, and we won't get questions like Mr. Kluart had a minute ago, well, you spent $16,000 in one day, how's that possible?
Sure. We'll have to coordinate a little bit with the contractor on the pump number 7, because his schedule's really not set up that way. And this is actually his critical path schedule that we presented to you. But I believe we may not be exact, but I believe we have a little bit better coordination on the stop log and surge protection, because Bill worked with us over the past week to try and get it into a certain format for you guys.
Right.
And I'm
Nope.
not gonna say it's exactly the same,
Right.
but we got it to this level.
Yeah.
And
we're
if we
still
need to make some
tweaking.
adjustments, we're happy to do so.
No problem, appreciate the effort. Just maybe bear in mind a few of the comments.
Sure.
I'm sure others, I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Dawson.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to get an idea, what is the cost? So give us, you got.
The overall cost for the construction, I believe, was right at $5.5 million.
5.3, wasn't it, or something?
I-
It was in that neighborhood, five and a
yes,
half
we'll
million.
get that number exactly to you.
Does that include your cost, or is that just the construction?
That is just the construction cost.
And
then
what
I'll
is
also-
y'all's, how much is y'all's contract?
I'll be honest with you, I don't remember that value right. We've
300 and some odd thousand, huh?
That sounds about right, and
yeah.
we're into the construction administration phase.
Right.
There's only a few percentages left, maybe 10, 15, 20% left in construction administration, but we'll get those numbers to you.
In the range of $6 million to put pump number 7, is that
That
fair?
sounds reasonable, yes.
It's less than 6 million.
Design and
It's
installation.
5.8.
Yeah,
Less than 6 million, I know that. I think about, 5.7, I think is my last, what I remember putting down on a spreadsheet, about 5.7, you're right.
Okay, thanks,
we'll get that information to you, though, to be more precise.
thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
One quick, With that, I guess we under budget with this project, or on budget.
We on budget. We have had no change orders on this project.
Great.
In fact, almost every project that we've had lately, we have no change orders.
Awesome.
So far, construction-wise. And that includes the Henderson Bayou and other things like this, so we're doing good.
Good deal.
Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
Quick question, this goes to Bill and Henry. Based on, addition of pump 6 and pump 7, and now at pump 7, the changes to the, fuel storage capacities and fuel storage facilities. We've had some upgrades on that.
The
We
new
still
fuel,
have the capacity. that's
the
what I'm talking about,
new
capacity
fuel
upgrades.
tank farm that was put in under pump number 6
6.
installation included the capacity for 7.
Yes.
I want to say it's a 7-day, but I'll have to check with Danny. I'm pretty sure it's like a 7-day capacity for all 7 pumps.
We did that in advance because it was,
We
the
had to
cost
move the old
was-
one.
Was
Right.
better to do it
Well, I
one
remember,
time,
that's what
just
I'm
like we
saying.
built the bay.
Yeah.
So we included that, the
And,
addition in that project.
Have we, based on when we finish this project, have we either recouped, cofferdams, or we got any better availability on these bays versus the original?
Well,
bays?
we're gonna talk about this, well,
Okay, but that's it.
this
It's on
next
another
project, the
spreadsheet,
stop
I'm good.
log and surge that BK
I'm good
has
with
in the next
Yes.
sheet.
The stop log project
I'm finished and going to the
basically
next.
allows us to put in a dewatering system on the front end of the pump station. The storm surge protection is to prevent backflow like we had during the rain event last year and the Isaac event, where
Surge.
the surge got to be, the old record was 4. We actually got up to a 6.3. So that was the highest, that's the new high record for the facility. The old record was a 4. But basically, if you look at item number 1, that is the design fees and construction administration fees for both projects, $473,000. The actual stop log design is $236, and then the construction for that is $61,000, construction administration. The surge protection is $143,000 for design bidding and $32,000 for construction administration. The indented items are the individual tasks. Those will add up to those bolded items shown. And we are currently in final design and 45% complete on that. And our original schedule included 12 months of design, 18 months of construction. And we believe we will be completed prior to the 12 months. We did have a little bit of a hiccup. Both Bill and I thought the task order had been signed. Accounting informed us it hadn't, so we had to get that taken care of. But even with that little hiccup, we feel we're going to be on time and possibly ahead of schedule, and that's our goal, to get it to you, so it's still within the same time frame. And that way you can go out to bid, shortly after pump number 7 is complete, because all of this is geared upon only taking out one bay of each of the 2 pump sections at a time. So we'll always have 6 pumps at any one time. And then we'll leapfrog and do the work one bay at a time. That's why the construction is over an 18-month period. We've got 7 bays we've got to work on, and we're assuming 18 months for that. If there's any questions that I can offer, you guys have, I can offer
Mr.
questions, answers to.
Yeah, as we go through Bay to Bay or whatever, are we gonna take care of the kiln cooler issues?
We are taking care of the keel cooler in this project. They're currently being laid out. We've talked with the manufacturer. We're planning to put the keel coolers in the discharge area, just like the pump coolers are now.
Right.
And that way, Bill can abandon, or we're recommending that it be taken out, but in essence, the old keel system, not keel system, but the old engine cooling system can be gotten rid of, and we're using a much more efficient package system, similar to what we put in on pump number 6 and 7.
Right.
That's probably going to be critical also with the surge protection system that we're going to be going on the discharge. Right now, it really is cluttered back there with the keel coolers. And so elimination of that is probably be necessary anyway to provide the surge protection, which is, like we just said, well, it got up to about 6.3, and I think the elevation of discharge is about 6.3 or 6.
5.25.
5.25.
Low elevation on
That's right.
the
So-
old structure, new structure is 5.25,
It's-
so.
It's critical that we get something there because the only thing prevented it from surging into the pumping system and just recirculating is that we kept them running the whole time. The pump. So the discharge pressure actually kept the water from coming in. But if one went down, we would have been in trouble. So we're working on it, and hopefully a good design to enable us to solve that problem.
Do we have, as we go through from pump to pump, is there any enhancement of the suction balloon? Because we kind of went with a redesign on 6.
That
No.
that is,
I don't know if it's even feasible to do then.
We
oh,
actually,
no,
we actually had some of the design from the model when we went, remember? I
yes,
think-
there's a recommendation from Alden Research
Right.
Lab, you were there. And that is one of the things that is slated to be done during the Bay 1 through 5 pump rehab. I believe Bill's got allocation for 1 bay per year to be handled. And my understanding, the veins will be inspected at that time and taken care of.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, going back to what they're doing, the 18-month is actually providing the stop log situation or the dewatering, way of dewatering. But once we get all of that done, then we're going to go back and start removing each pump from operation, dewatering it, going in there and do these other things that actually going to probably take a year per pump to do. Again, just an estimate. And right now, we're putting like $1 million per pump per year. And it might be, but that's budget, just so we can add up the numbers and see if we've got enough money to do all of our work, as Mr. Dawson requested several times. Make sure we have enough money, so we throw money in there, put budget amount so we can project it to 5 years and see what our balance is. So right now, we're figuring around $1 million per pump once we get this project completed.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize on this pump station the importance of what we got and our anticipation in the future of this pump station as we extend the Law Ridge levee and we look at an overflow channel there, or we either try to take in anything more in the Sorrento area going in that direction.
And I
Because
can tell you,
all those conversations have been floating for a couple of years now.
and I can tell you right now that we're doing this work, but in conjunction with everything else, we're going to have to raise I guess, we're going to have to do some renovation of the levee system, raise it to the 100-year, at least 100-year. And in doing that, we have to do something with the base at Marvin Pro Pump Station. So there's a lot of work ahead of us, but it's really imperative that we get that whole system up to standard. That can go along with trying to get a certification and accreditation too. But just for the safety of the people, we need to get everything up to the 100-year. Right through there.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bill.
Yep, thanks. Thank you. Again, I appreciate the schedules and the cost. But let me just clarify, if you don't mind, Henry, this is the cost, this is just BKI's cost, or engineering cost, is that correct?
That is correct. These are strictly design fees.
So what do we have budgeted for the construction on this bill?
Actually, we haven't, that's to be determined at the end of this, of their preliminary work. Their work is going to tell us the cost.
Give me an idea, 1 or 10 million?
I'll tell you what, Henry, you're going to have to advise me on that.
Without going too far out on a limb, we believe the combination of the stop logs and the flood protection will probably run in the range of about 1.4 million, but we reserve the right to update that number as we complete the final plans.
Reserve the right to lower it.
We'll do the best we can.
So, and let me ask this, whatever the costs are, this will come out of the capital budget money, this will not come out of the regular maintenance, is that correct?
This is capital budget, which is right now a combination of your fund balance and whatever money we can get from a lot of these other funds. Now, we're going after a good bit of money from what is owed to us from the August flood, all of the mitigation money coming down to the parish. Hopefully, we get enough to get into some of these mega projects using some of that money. So again, it's right now, the only thing we can guarantee that some of it gonna have to come out of the fund balance. How much of it will be determined by how much money we can get from another source, which we are working on.
Okay, because I did get a recap, and you copied on that, that we have about $12 million left from the bond, the $65 million bond
Well,
money,
that
so.
is, and I can explain that to you. If that's purely accounting. What we did was, actually, we got about 17 million. If you notice in that list, it was some capital project put in there that was paid out of that money. But in reality, what it was, we just didn't transfer the money from our fund balance over to take that cost for a lot of reasons, one of which being the money's there, we weren't worried about it. The second thing is that because the bond money has a time limit on it for spending, and it wasn't totally tied to a list of projects. In other words, any capital project could have been, if it related to the original bond issuance, we could spend the money for it. So what we decided to do is go ahead and spend, just don't put any more money into that fund account, go ahead and spend it as we need it for all our capital projects. And when we get to the end, we'll just reimburse the fund for these other projects that you see in that list. Some of that list was not part of the original bond, to be honest.
Well, maybe we need to get that corrected, get finance to correct that and see exactly how much, but I mean, all I'm saying is that there's a limited amount, whether it's 12 million or 17 million, and we have an awful lot of projects here. This is one of the smaller ones, actually, at 4 million. So I want to make sure that we're not planning for something that we don't have the money to spend on it.
When I come back to you with this pro forma type report I'm giving you, it will answer most of your questions, I think.
Okay. Then I had one other question just on, did anybody, presume you guys looked at what kind of improvements we'd get as far as efficiency, or what kind of improvements will we get because of this stop log installation? Maybe you didn't.
The stop log will not provide any increased capacity. What it does provide is the capability of dewatering the structure for maintenance, which currently doesn't exist. So there's not going to be any additional capacity put in by the stop logs. But the way Bill and I have talked about the design on the flood protection, the storm surge, they're gates that are to remain open at all times except when need. So there won't be any diminishing of capacity on the back end. So what you'll have is the full rated capacity of the 7 pumps. We're not going to diminish it in any way, but this is not increasing capacity.
It's not going to increase any efficiency? We're not going to get any greater operating efficiency out of this?
Well, the hope is, Councilman, that after we have this installed, then we can dewater, go in, and maybe at that point in time, we can add things that increase the efficiency of the system. Once we can get inside of it. Right now, it's totally, full of water. You can't get in there and do any improvements. So that comes after we are able to get into the system. And hopefully we can put something in to increase the efficiency at that time.
And there's a couple other things, Mr. No. You finished?
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Goulart?
Yeah, it's basically, you're talking about efficiency. No, it's not gonna kick one more 1,000 cubic feet of water for the
What
pumps.
does it let you operate for a longer
It lets
period
you
of time?
operate better.
That's more
The place
efficient?
is a maintenance nightmare right now. And if you've been back there in high water, it's holy hell keeping it clean and keeping everything. So everything that we're talking about here that we've been planning for a couple of years and started putting in action about a year and a half or so ago is to try to make the efficiency of that thing to where you can, when we get to 7 pumps, that where you can have 7 pumps running. All right, it's the efficiency of the station, not necessarily the
Well, I mean,
increased
if we have
capacity of the pump.
if we have the rudder in the water longer, then you're gonna go, I mean,
Yeah.
if we can keep the pumps operating
That's it.
20, more than, 20% more in a day, or whatever the number is, 20% more in a week, then we get improved efficiency. That's what I was thinking, but maybe I didn't phrase the question
Yeah,
correctly.
so we're looking at, with 7 pumps, we're looking at 7,000 cubic feet per second, and so every second we can save,
There you
might
go.
save a house somewhere.
There you go. Thank you.
Mr. Lambert.
Bottom line, we just gonna be protecting the capacity by doing the structures. What our capacity is, this is
Correct.
gonna make sure that we can keep that capacity at that state by keeping that pluggage in the front end.
And Bill's proposed program to rehab the pumps, the engines and gears will bring those engines and pumps back up to their rated capacity, because I'm sure over the 25, 27 years,
27 years.
there's
Yeah,
been
run
some
it-
diminishing of capacity there. I mean, they're still running good. I mean, but we're confident you're not getting the full peak efficiency out of that, and then
We can
you'll
see, we
get,
can see a more consistent running on them.
yeah, you'll
by
get full
protecting
rated
them.
capacity after the rehab. So
correct.
the goal is to get them fully functional and in essence, working at their optimal.
Right.
What really scares us is the fact if something really happens inside the pump, the impeller part inside the system,
Major
we get a
cost.
failure of the structure itself, that's what's really scaring us, and we want the ability to stop it, dewater, get in and fix it before we get a catastrophic failure. So that's the purpose of the stop log.
Just real quick, this will also allow an inspection that is very critical to the superstructure itself.
Yes, sir.
Not a moving part, not a pump. Real quick on the pump, there's not a pump alive that pumps what it's rated at unless you have optimum circumstances. And so we rarely ever have that anywhere in the world.
But you can run the pumps a little bit faster than they're rated.
Yeah, but that's not on the curve.
Pick it up
That's not written down, okay? And
Yeah,
that ruins
you can
the
get
warranty.
maybe
But I'm
another
just saying,
5%,
anything that we can-
105%
we can-
rated.
We can recapture the efficiency of the 5 that are there.
Yes.
Take a look at those impellers, get the shallow spots out, build them back up, do whatever, it's just time.
And
Time,
important,
and we need to look at that superstructure.
well, we need to look at the superstructure, and an important thing is the bearings have not been inspected in a long time. So, I mean, that's an important item, you know.
Based on vibrations, we feel like they're still hanging in there pretty good.
Well,
that-
we're having to go in there and check some of that. We have some issues with vibration right now
Yeah.
that we're going in and checking this week. So,
Better watch out, Mr. Cluett, they're gonna scoop you up and put you on. Ms. Terry?
So I certainly had no knowledge of any of this stuff 30 years ago. So tell me why we didn't know we needed stop log protection 30 years ago. We didn't know we needed to be able to de-water and do maintenance. I mean, it would seem that that should have been part of the initial engineering, and it certainly would have cost less 30 years ago than it does today. But was that just not, or have we learned more? I mean, help me to understand.
we're just so much more intelligent today.
That's what I figured. I'm smarter than I
They,
was 30
they
years
were
ago.
under a different scenario for funding, and they were limited, I guess, at that time on how much money they had to spend. So this is the design they went through with the engineering design firm that recommended it.
Okay.
The,
That makes
the old
sense to me.
Prescott Foley plans did not include them. When we presented 6 and 7, that was one of the items that was eliminated to save costs to get the initial pump 6 and the structure for number 7 in. It was a fiscal decision probably back then, just like it was a fiscal decision, because there was limited funds. If I agree, it would have been cheaper to put them in initially. But at that time, we were working towards the funds available and tried to provide the maximum station that could be provided at that time within the budget.
And let me tell you a little bit of history. Actually, at one time, there were actually going to be 2 pump stations, each one having 2 pumps, a 2,000 CFS. And one was going to be what they call the old Denham Canal, which is now Severio Canal. The other one was going to be on New River, totally separate. Then they came with a redesign of that, and they decided to put it there and redig the channels and make just 1 pump station. And the cost went down enough to put the number 6 pump in. I mean 5 pump. So originally only 4 pumps, and that was only for a 5-year rain event. That wasn't ever designed to go more than a 5-year event. So everything changed since then. The circumstances within the Ascension Parish, Louisiana, and the weather has changed a lot. So.
Yeah, all that makes sense, and I thank you. I think it benefits us to understand, and certainly, especially those of us like myself who weren't paying one bit of attention to this 30 years ago, and certainly other members of the public to understand, because obviously we have to make it better.
And one other mention, and this is what I hope the public hears. That pump station was never meant to provide drainage to the protected side. It was put there for one purpose, the exact same purpose we have Henderson Bayou floodgate. And that is to stop the backwater flooding from Amite River. And during that type of event, if we had rain within the basin, turn the pumps on and get the water out. So nobody would flood from headwater event while you had a flood event. That was the purpose of it, primarily a floodgate, flood system. And now that has evolved into a drainage system more than a flood prevention system. And that's why we had to add the other pumps, to be honest with you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
The buildup of the parish has changed since '88. Parish is densified. There's a lot more runoff, so that's part of. Now, we are up to a full 10-year design with the 7 pumps, so we've able to increase the capacity to a higher level of protection.
Right.
But once again, it's more of a budgetary constraint from the construction aspect than it is from the engineering aspect.
And also on that, we're talking about checking the capacity and verifying capacity, or the amount of CFS going out. We have had USGS install another gauge just downstream of the pump station. And if you look on the website for that pump station, it tells you the velocity. We haven't, that is going to be expanded to actually give you a discharge rating, similar to what they used to have at Amite River at Port Vincent. Right. So hopefully at any point in time during a major event, we can tell you prior to the event how much water is going out before we start pumping. And if we got enough capacity going out, say 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000 CFS natural flow going out, that'll give us justification for not starting the pump, because once you stop everything, then you got to artificially discharge the same amount. Right. So that is going in, and we're going to expand it to give you the total discharge at that site. And that'll be another way of looking at the site discharge. When we've got the pump running, we've got one pump running, we verify the discharge downstream, and it'd be one way of comparing notes on that.
Anyone else? If not, look, I'm not here to knock anyone on this, but there's no one event is the same. And we know that with this station. But, as far as the efficiency, I think in this last event at Lee's Camp, we looking at a structure, and hopefully everyone on the same page with this, we can get some relief there by opening and maybe putting a structure in that we can manually lift. I just think this is 30 years in the works. There's some things that we're going to need to add to this to help, everyone, and If it's putting in a structure by lease camp, the 7 pumps, I mean, believe me, we're a lot better off than where we
And that
were.
structure is being modeled right now, and I can tell you, it'd be part of our master plan for the next 5 years. I'm gonna have some information on that at our next meeting. You know, this is one of our suggestions, is a floodway type system there to relieve the pressure that can possibly occur during a normal rain event, heavy rain event. If the elevations are enough on each side, we actually can open up some of this theoretically and add a whole new pump station to the system by just a natural release. So again, we're looking at, it's gonna be at the next meeting.
Yeah, it's
discussed.
definitely an improvement, so. Anyone else for Mr. Henry?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next, Glenn Shaheen with GSA. Talk about the Law Rich levy.
We get hazardous pay tonight?
I'm gonna need a drainage system for the dikes.
See that? They want a pump
Expecting to be
station
grounded
there
over
on the
here,
roof.
Got us all sitting behind electricity.
I think I saw Judge Verticans up there with a screwdriver putting a hole in the roof.
That might have been what it was.
Bill's passing out two, I guess, two 11x17 sheets. One, the first one that you had was our first attempt at establishing a schedule or a chart for the progress of this project, and then there's some other information on it. And then the second sheet that he's passing out, I thought might be of, I'm not sure what everyone knows about the Laurel Ridge Levee Extension Project. I'm assuming everyone has intimate knowledge of the details of that project. So I kind of want to start there so that we first have an understanding of just exactly what this Laurel Ridge Levee project is. And that's the picture.
Let me make
Oh, I'm sorry.
a comment.
I'm sorry.
The Glenn has been out for about a week or so, and we got
Yes.
started on the project and on the schedule. So he just came back, you know, today really, and we got a little bit more done, but it's not exactly like in the
Right.
format as the other one, mainly because we haven't been able to get together, but it will be in the same format as the other ones. All gonna be exactly the same
Right.
after this point, after tonight.
Yeah. To add on with Bill, I actually sent that to Bill about a week or so ago as our first cut at it. And then I was out all last week on vacation. Apologize, but I needed it. And then this week, my assistant is out this week on vacation, so. But the next one that you get will be in the same format. We'll have, basically be very consistent with everyone else's. We'll be using the same format, hopefully presenting the same information so that you have an understanding of what all we're trying to present. So with that, I'll start. Laurel Ridge Levee, of course, has been around for quite some time. This didn't start within the last few years. It's been around. We picked it up in 2008.
Yeah.
But it had actually been around prior to that for a few years. But basically, it's a levee. It's where it is today on that first sheet. If you look at the first sheet, the aerial with a yellow line which depicts the proposed route for the Laurel Ridge Levee extension. It's about 4.4 miles, and it begins on the southern end at the intersection with the existing Laurel Ridge Levee, which is depicted by the red line. That red line is the extension, basically the extension of Gold Place Road. The existing Laurel Ridge Levee begins at the end of Gold Place Road, if y'all familiar with that. Some of you are, some of you may not be. But that's kind of where, that's the beginning point of that Law Ridge levee, and the terminal point of that Law Ridge levee is up on at the end of Wall Cemetery Road. And if you follow the alignment, that alignment kind of zigzags across through there, across lots of wetlands, which made it a challenging project to get permitted by the Corps. As I said, this project began prior to 2008. The original concept for this levee was to follow what we call the wet-dry interface, which really follows where non-wet and wetlands theoretically meet. But the problem with that is that the length of that levee was probably 3 or 4 times the length of this proposed levee. We actually cut across. The challenging part about this project is that we actually cut across what they call white cypress swamp, which is it's wet. So Corps is going to be very, very cautious in their review and evaluation of the project. The project we consider it a passive project. It has several control structures, but there's no pump station. So this system basically stays open during normal rainfall events, and only when there are backwater conditions on the Amite River are those structures closed to prevent that backwater from backing into the system. There's an operational plan that's part of the permitting process, and that operational plan will dictate when you can shut. What are the conditions that allow you to shut those structures and close those structures from that backwater event? So all that's part of the process. It's there's about a little over 420,000 yards of fill that's going to be required for that levee. There's about 104.7 acres of right-of-way acquisition that need to occur. And there's about approximately 45 acres of wetland mitigation credits that we have to acquire. 41.4 of those are non-coastal. 2.7 of those acres are coastal, what they call coastal wetlands. That's actually in the coastal zone, which is a little different, requires a little different mitigation credit acquisition than the non-coastal wetland acquisitions. If you flip to the schedule part, the second sheet that Bill passed out, which looks something like this. I'll start at the bottom, and I'll go right into the project cost details, because I think and then we'll talk about schedule. But this project, all of the work, all the effort, our effort to date has been paid for by the Pontchartrain Levee District. And if you look at the very bottom on the blue section, the bottom left corner of the sheet, it identifies what costs have been, what are our cost, dollars expended to date, and what we're projecting the rest of the cost, including engineering cost and construction costs, for the completion of this project. Under the PLD category, they have expended right at $1.9 million. And that's in engineering, that's in surveying, that's in environmental, it's hydraulic, H&H, hydrological and hydraulic modeling, right at $600,000 worth of geotech, $581,000, and then some legal cost. So the total that they've expended out of their funds since 2008, about $1.9 million, $1.893 million. There's still some remaining dollars that the PLD will spend. That's authorized, but we have not expended because we're still going through the permitting process. Very close to securing a permit for this project, but there's still some things that we have to do to get to that point. Very close, probably a month or so, we believe, from getting to the point where we can secure the permit. So there's about $195,000 worth of additional work to do to get to that point, and that's over the next 3 to 4 months. The wetland mitigation credits that we have to acquire It's about $3.5 million paid for by PLD. There's, as I said earlier, there's about 104 acres of right-of-way acquisition. The right-of-way acquired. We estimate that to be about $1.24 million. Once again, a cost to be incurred by the Pontchartrain Levy District. And then, of course, the final design and bidding, and then the construction, engineering, and inspection, the CE&I work, is $450,000 the final design, and about $1.5 million for the construction component of the project. On the East Ascension gravity drainage side, as I can appreciate the cooperative endeavor agreement that the East Ascension gravity drainage has with Pontchartrain Levy District, the parish will assume all the cost, incur all the cost for the construction. Okay? And that, we estimate that to be right at $16 million, $15,583,000. That's where we are today. That may change, go up and down a little bit as we get into the final design, as we figure out exactly what we're going to need to do from a final design perspective. So that's where we are today. The parish will also be responsible for the environmental monitoring. Once this project is completed and the keys are turned over to East Ascension gravity drainage, there is a component that the Corps, we don't know what that requirement is going to be just yet. We won't know that until we get it. We get a permit from the Corps which says these are your responsibilities from an environmental monitoring perspective. But they will require some environmental monitoring upon completion of this project to make sure that this project does not harm the environment in any way. So there's going to be a period of time where there's going to be some annual monitoring that will occur. That'll be the responsibility of East Ascension gravity drainage. And we'll know, once we get a permit, we'll be able to put a firm number on what that is. And then, of course, the last component of cost for East Ascension gravity drainage will be the perpetual operation and maintenance. Mowing the grass, I'm assuming, we're going to cut grass on it. As the structures they are mechanical. There are sluice gates on every structure. There's probably some lubrication and some minor maintenance that has to, exercising those gates to make sure that they're operational when you need them, and so forth and so on. So those three costs, construction, environmental monitoring, and the O&M, perpetual O&M, will be the responsibility of East Ascension Gravity Drainage District. All right. Any questions? So forth.
Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, Glenn, we appreciate the update. You had spoken about the past, how this project had evolved. It's been on the books as a need for a lot of years, probably 20 years. Okay, back in the mid-2000s, there was a task order to another firm, not yours, but another firm, and that carried through to 2007. And kind of into the edge of 2008, and their proposal, like you'd said earlier, was to just cut across.
The wet-dry interface.
Wet-dry interface, Prince Road, Brittany-Port Vincent Highway 431, and cut back. And the protection area would have been a lot less than what it is now. And the cost was similar to what the original estimated cost of this was, as far as cost.
I don't remember what the cost was. It was a much longer levy.
It was escalated a whole lot higher.
I know. And anyway, so it wasn't feasible for cost benefit analysis.
Correct.
And the
But
Corps
you
was
don't-
not
if you-
happy with it
That's
anyway.
correct. But if you're not asking for federal funding and the cost benefit, this project has a positive BC ratio because of.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm talking about as it was.
Because
It was not as it originally was proposed, okay? When somebody else had it. And, just a simple question asking, well, like y'all came up with is, well, can we go straight across the swamp and catch that? We'll protect the swamp. There was a time when people thought that the Corps would not accept that
correct.
proposal. Matter of fact,
They told us.
the firm before, they told you flat
Don't
out,
come.
couldn't do it. So what we did, we went kind of kept working with them, and working with you guys, and I think, you know, it took a long time to evolve to get the plan together, and we're gonna protect a hell of a lot more people with this
Right.
final product.
I can give you, you know, if I can, on that subject, Councilman, if you notice on your map, the termination of this is Wall Cemetery Road. That little high ground area where it's tying into did not overtop during the August flood.
I know.
So we feel pretty confident that the tying of that into that area right there at that same elevation will afford a whole lot more protection, even in that kind of catastrophic event, so.
And while we're talking about that, is just basically, there was a lot of work to go in to try to get the core, as every time we went through a phase of initial design, conception, even in conception, no design, we went back to the core, we had to prove to them every time. I'm gonna revert back to the cost-benefit ratio, because our benefit cost to BC, as they call it, is even though we're not using federal funds, they look at that, and, you know, sometimes it sheds a bad light on them actually giving approval in their own minds. I'm not saying by law, but through the past 3 colonels, we've been able to work with them and work this plan through, so we hope to get that permit within the next month or so.
That's correct.
And,
I'll give you one update I would like to make. I don't know if I even mentioned this to Bill, but early last week, we've submitted all of the mitigation needs that we have. It's a dual permit. It's through the Department of Office of Coastal Management, which is part of CPRA, but the Corps issues the permit.
right,
Okay. Last week, Mark Hogan, who's our contact with the Office of Coastal Management, sent his letter approving our mitigation credits to the Corps of Engineers. Our contact there is Mr. Neil Goche. And that's the first step, first major step in getting the Corps to approve this permit. Now, we're not going to get a permit until they actually approve our mitigation plan.
right.
All right? But they will certify that before we can move to the mitigation plan process and finalize the mitigation acquisition, credit acquisition, through whoever the mitigation banks that they approve. We don't get to pick the mitigation bank. The Corps of Engineers says, these are the banks that you're going to buy your mitigation credits from. And they give you 3 or 4 or 5. One may not be able to handle all of these credits. We may use others, but it'll be somewhat of a bidding process. We'll receive proposals from them. They'll say, I can handle this number of acres. And some of them may not be able to give us the coastal credits that we need. Maybe only one of them may be able to provide that.
They
That
may
may
not
be an expensive
qualified
cost.
for that.
Huh?
Those may not be qualified for that.
That's correct. That's correct. So the first major step in that permitting process was achieved early last week when Mark Hogan sent his letter to the Corps saying, we approve the mitigation acreage. Now Neil Goche has to issue us a letter saying, we concur with you, proceed through the mitigation plan acquisition. So that's where we are. Now, that's going to take 3 months to get that. We've got the package ready to go, but we're going to get proposals back. You've got to evaluate them, and then there's going to be a recommendation made to Pontchartrain Levy District. Here's the mitigation where we want to buy our mitigation credits from, and here's the cost. Now, we're not going to buy them until the Corps actually issues a permit. We submit that mitigation plan to the Corps. That's when the permit will be issued, and they will incorporate that mitigation plan into that permit. So that's kind of where we're at.
But I want to touch on a subject, then I'll get off of it for the rest of the meeting, until next meeting. But anyway, can you tell the public what it's going to cost us per acre to mitigate? What's the average cost per acre?
I don't have it. It's 45 acres, and we're estimating 3.5 million. You do the math. I don't know what that comes to.
About 80,000.
Huh?
about 80,000.
It's
not that
different,
much.
it's a little bit different between the type of mitigation, type of units, you know, if it's hardwood and Tupelo or
Cypress
cypress. So, it varies, but anywhere between 35 and 75,000, 80,000 an acre.
I just want to,
different.
you know, as I get any opportunity in Washington DC or wherever, talk to our federal folks, is that we're a public agency and we're trying to protect people. And we're being held on this mitigation issue. And I still don't know where that money goes, so somebody'd have to explain that to me. But we're going to spend 10 to 15% of our total budget on mitigation.
More than that. Oh, no, mitigation.
And trying to help protect
Mitigation.
people.
I
And
wanna-
proving to the best of our ability that we're not gonna ruin that many acres of wetland, but that's the way it is as it comes down
Add
from the
up.
Corps of Engineers and the federal government, and we've had to live with that for a long damn time.
I don't
And I
have a
disagree with
calculator
it.
in front of me. Maybe somebody, Bill Dawson probably has a much better mathematical mind than I do. Probably can add these numbers up, but if you add the Pontchartrain Levy District cost, that's the non-construction cost of this project. Some of it is estimated. I don't know what that number comes to, but it's 2, 5.5.
About a third of
But it's a $16 million construction cost project, and I'm spending $7 or $8 million on non-construction costs. So it's about a 50% fee, non-construction versus construction
Well, I'm
costs. So,
not
I mean,
just
that's
talking
the,
about all that. I'm talking
that's how expensive these projects are. I mean, but we'll be able to verify these numbers as we move forward. But some of these are estimated, like the mitigation costs. We won't know what that number is until we actually receive proposals from these mitigation banks.
Right.
Yeah, about-
Right-of-way acquisition, until those rights-of-ways are appraised and acquired, we won't know whether that's 1.2 million or 1.5 million. But based on the appraisal work that we have to date,
I don't have an
preliminary,
issue with that, we're taking people's personal property and using it forever.
I agree.
Okay,
I
but
agree.
we had $77,000 an acre for this mitigation.
Right. If you look at this chart, I know I'm taking up a lot of time, but I think it's, I want to make sure y'all walk out of here, with a complete understanding of our project. The levees that we're designing, the levees are, we're designing these levees, it's the elevation, the top elevation of this levee is being set. It's a base flood elevation plus 3 feet, plus, we've got, 25-year, overbuild. As time goes on and levees consolidate, compact, we've built into the design a 25-year, at least for 25 years. We hope our geotechnical information was correct, that we don't have to go back and then raise that levee to maintain that elevation. So that's and that elevation varies depending on the base flood elevation. So if you said, well, where's it at on, what's the elevation? That's the criteria we're using to establish the finish height and elevation at the top of the levee. The yellow components, if you look at this sheet, I've shaded the areas of the things that we are doing today. What are we working on today? And those are the things that we're working on. And I'll give you a brief update on where we are with those items. We're trying to finalize the right-of-way acquisition maps. And Tacey and I have talked about a couple of things. One, we were missing some information on the Gold Place Road. There's still 3 issues on the right-of-way maps for us to finalize them. We're probably 95% complete with them. One is at the Lake Martin Road. There seems to be somewhat of a boundary issue. We're not quite sure that there's a sliver of land in there that somebody owns, but we can't determine who owns it yet. So the attorneys are looking at that saying, here's what we're going to do, okay? The surveyors have said this is what we think that right-of-way is. The right-of-way acquisition folks have reviewed all the documents and said, no, we think it's this. And there's a little sliver of land somewhere in there that we have to identify who owns it, okay? And we're gonna, we're not talking about millions of dollars worth of real estate, but we want to try to make sure we get that boundary issue resolved, because we're going to acquire that right of way. The The second issue we're dealing with is, and I was asking Tacey about earlier, is any servitude, and Debbie, about servitudes on the existing Laurel Ridge levee. Existing Laurel Ridge levee begins where Gold Place Road ends, okay? Our levee begins where we tie into the existing Laurel Ridge levee. We're about, I don't remember, 150 or so feet from the end of Gold Place Road, which is a property line. And so when I get to the end of Gold Place Road and I get up on the existing Laurel Ridge levee, I'm on somebody else's property. So, but we're looking for servitude agreements or right-of-way agreements, anything that we have that documents the usage of the existing Laurel Ridge levee. Now, why is that important? Well, I've got 3 access points to my project, to this project. I've got Gold Place Road on Laurel Ridge levee. I've got Lake Martin Road, and then I've got Wall Cemetery Road. Those are the only 3 public access routes that we have to build this levee with. So it's important that we know what our rights and privileges are for the existing Laurel Ridge levee. And then the last issue we've got the last issue we have is there's a flowage easement. If you look at this map back again, below the red line, you see a kind of a dark, like a heavy dark line that runs from the red line down to Babin Canal. That's an old stream tread. That runs, I guess before Laurel Ridge.
Yeah,
behind the Cloats.
It's behind my house.
Right.
Not on none of our property.
It's not on your
It's behind
property.
it.
I can tell you whose property it is, but anyway, we have an emergency overflow structure on the interior of our levee at the old Laurel Ridge levee, crossing the old Laurel Ridge levee. And we want to preserve, if we overflow water from our overflow structure, God forbid, we don't know that anything is possible, but if water does top our levee, it has a way to get out over the emergency overflow structure. We want to preserve that old stream tread. We believe that based on our hydraulic modeling, that if that ever were to occur, we think that entire area where that black line is will be inundated. It'll be inundated already. But we still want to preserve that old stream tread. Don't know that any future development could happen back in there, but we want to make sure that we preserve that and make sure that no development can occur that will affect that old stream tread. Those are the 3 issues that we've got left on the right-of-way maps. So that's one issue we're working on, and we hope to have that resolved probably in the next couple of weeks. The other issues that we're working on, of course, is always ongoing permitting. In fact, just today, we answered 6 more, all of the people, anybody can submit a comment to the Corps of Engineers or to CPRA. Our responsibility is to respond to that comment. The Mark Hogan, Neil Goche, Corps of Engineers, it gets downloaded onto their CPRA site. I think it's Sonorous, and I don't remember what the Corps of Engineers site is, but those comments get downloaded. We receive the comments, and then we're required to respond if it's an appropriate comment. Some people have submitted comments that they don't like the councilman, they don't like the parish president, they don't like, well, we don't respond to that. Believe it or not, that happens. We don't respond if it's a technical issue or an issue that's pertains to this project, that we're required to respond to it. And as you know, I know Randy knows, he's been on the front line in this project, but there are some folks that have been opposed to this project. There's no valid, they don't have any valid technical basis for their. This fact is that they just don't want the project to happen. They've enjoyed living in certain areas of the parish, and they like the trees and the leaves, and I agree with them, but this particular case, there's a lot of benefit from this levy. But once again, anytime anybody submits a comment, we're required to respond. That's taken up a bunch of time. So that's, the other thing that's taken a lot of time on this project, I'm not proud to say that we began this project in 2008, but, and I think Bill, I'm not going to get into over time, there's been a lot of starts and stops and pauses and you name it through the course of the project. But one of the things that's really taken a lot of the time is that the levee alignment has been modified 3 times. And anytime you modify the levee alignment and you go back to the Corps of Engineers with that modified levee alignment, you're almost beginning the process over again. Not exact, I mean, not to that extent, but almost to that extent. We probably added about 1.5 miles to the levee as we have proceeded through this process with those modifications. And those modifications were done to address concerns that property owners had. Didn't want it that close to their house, didn't want it in the backyard, didn't, whatever the case. So we have, on 3 separate occasions, have submitted modifications, alignment modifications to the Corps, which takes time. And then, of course, all the regulatory hoops that you have to jump through, the review processes that take time, and then, it's not, they don't put your project on the top of the list. It's wherever it comes in at. And God forbid one of our legislators or one of our congressmen asks for an update on the project. We think they put it on the bottom of the pile when that happens. But anyway, that's where we're at. But those are the things that we're working on, finishing up right-of-way acquisition maps. We're still responding to comments and issues with the Corps, Office of Community Coastal Management. We are hopefully near the end of the process on a mitigation, on the mitigation plan, which hopefully will happen here shortly. And then we can begin the process of right-of-way acquisition. What I do want to talk about is the last 3 items on that schedule, which I have I've projected some time, what we estimate the time of those to be. But I don't have any dates. I think next month we'll be in a better position to tell you exactly what those dates are going to be, because we'll have a better feel for the timing of the permit of this project. But there's still final design to be done, and we estimate that's about an 8-month process. Does not include, that's just our time, does not include any regulatory review process. Don't know how expeditiously they will review those and turn them around. The construction of the project is about 18 months, what we're estimating. And then, of course, there's a post-construction environmental monitoring, which will be the parishes. We'll have a better feel for those dates and times and cost probably the next time I come before you. So you'll have a better formatted schedule, and you'll have a much more detailed timeline in terms of what's remaining to be done and when we expect to complete those items.
Great.
That's my report, Mr. Chairman. I thank you. I appreciate your time and your patience, and if you've got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. James. Oh, Mr. Lambert was waiting patiently.
Yeah, Glenn, I sat in on the public hearings when they had this meeting, on the alignment, and yes, we did have a couple of complaints at that time, and
Right.
I guess the reasoning why we're not gonna save on the end of Lake Martin, we could have saved 3 to 5 homes by rerouting the levee but we choose to go around them, and they're not in the protection of that
Right.
levee now.
They're not complaining, though.
Yeah, they're complaining.
Oh, are they?
They're complaining.
We haven't received any. Thanks.
Yeah, they're complaining.
Yeah, he's talking about,
I'm sorry.
Yes, they are complaining. So
Talking about Mr.
that's
Johnny
when
there?
I'm wondering, why did we not, that was the census of the public hearing. That's the reason we have a public hearing. I know we had both ways. I had some people that live right on Lake Martin that lives in camps right on the lake, but they live on the spoil bank, and they built their homes up
Right.
8 foot up that they don't flood, have trouble getting there once we have a big flood.
But that'll be resolved with this project.
But these other homes, if they would have been on the protection side this past flood, they would have been okay.
Correct.
And we just missing by just, the levee passes right by them. And
That-
we could
yeah.
grab 3 to 5 homes that's in that area and, protect them. And like I said, I had a lot of talk for that. And everybody at the public hearing was for this project. Yeah, you was it.
Yeah.
No, not everybody there was for the
A
project.
bunch of them were. The
bunch of
majority,
them were.
the
Well,
majority
you're
were
right,
for
the
it.
majority of them were. To answer your question about the 3 to 5 structures that got eliminated, we stayed with the original alignment, Todd.
But that wasn't the original. I think we altered it. The original was to go around these guys.
No,
Councilman, the original was pretty much this one. We changed that to take in those 2 or
Took
3.
them in.
And then, once we changed it, we had a lot of opposition from the people that live along Lake Martin itself, the lake. And we went back to the Corps with it, and it was determined that the best route is to go back to the original design footprint.
Was that a core recommendation?
core recommendation.
Corps, because of benefit costs, the cost of, and the wetland issue,
Correct.
because it was going through the real virgin cypress
That was the issue.
swamp to reroute it, just to save, and it's actually not saving the structures, because most of the structures, the 3 structures are elevated, and the Corps said you cause more damage than good. They recommended to go back to the original.
We stayed with the alignment that protected, you're talking about Mr. Johnny then. I don't remember who all, Mr. Johnny's the one I
Dupree
know.
and all.
Dupree, yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one I know. I don't know all the rest of them as well as I know Mr. Johnny. But we stayed with that alignment all the way to the 11th hour. And then the Corps really said, hey, you need to revise this alignment. You need to, I know, our original intent, Todd, as you recall, when we started this whole process, and I remember battling with Councilman Kluat on a few occasions about the mission of this. We want to protect as many structures as we can. I mean, that was the whole purpose of when we began this. That was the mission of the levy. Protect as many structures as we can feasibly protect. And it was at the end, and the Corps said, we want a revised alignment that took out those 3 or 4 structures, but also eliminated impacts on some very sensitive wetlands, according to the Corps. I don't know how you get more sensitive than crossing White Cypress Swamp, but I guess we could have battled.
Don't
the
press
Corps.
your luck. You hadn't got your permit in your hand yet.
You're right.
And it's on TV.
Oh, I forgot.
All right, man.
That's right.
You finished, Todd?
That's good.
I'm coming to you. Go ahead. You okay, Bill?
Yeah, let Terry go.
Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, just one question about the status. What's the condition of the existing Laurel Ridge levee? And
It's not, I don't think from what information we have, I think we're building this levee to be able to certify this levee with the Corps. The existing Laurel Ridge levee, I don't think has been constructed, nor, I don't think it can be certified at this
No.
point.
And again, it will be talked about at the next meeting when we come back with future projects, one of which, one of the major projects we're looking at for the mitigation money coming to us because of the August event is reconditioning and actually reconstructing a lot of our existing levee to comply with the new, the BFE standard that we are going with this new levee. In other words, match everything up. And not only the existing levee, but also establish the levee up by Francois all the way to Sorrento, which is non-existent right now, and which is a factor when you get a surge from the Gulf. So again, this is part of the report that I'm gonna come back to you at the next meeting with future projects, and mainly part of the mitigation money from the August event.
Great.
Bless you.
thank you.
Bill,
I appreciate that, thank you.
you finished?
Yes, thank you.
Bill?
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. You talked about the benefit cost, and you were starting to tell what that were. I'm wondering, you might not have the exact number. How many structures are, gonna benefit from
So
this?
1,700 structures, Bill.
1,700 structures, and
I have something I can bring.
what
I can
would
send
that
to you.
benefit cost come out to be, do you?
I don't, it's a little over 1.
Over 1?
Yeah, it was
1.1,
over
something like
1.
that.
Okay. And, I mean, is the fill to build this as imported, or is that gonna be local,
Be imported.
imported?
Yeah,
So I
and
see
that's-
that you have like, you know, my calculation is $37 a yard on the 400,000 yards.
Yeah, I
That's
put
the
it in.
total construction cost.
Well, that's just a fill.
Well, I mean, if I took 15 million, just divided that by 400,000, I did, that comes out to about $37. So,
I can tell you, that's exactly what the fill is about, we estimated $37 a yard.
okay, well, and you got 7 structures in there.
That's correct.
So
If you want, I've got my construction cost.
I'm just wondering about the 15 million that's here, that's
Right.
forecasted. How sensitive is that? Can I ask that?
Can I get my cost estimate? I'll tell you.
Where you gotta go? Oh, yeah.
You gotta remember.
So I guess, Bill, where I'm going here is that, you know, again, we're looking at 15, let's say 15 to 20 million. I don't know where the number is, but, you know, and that we have somewhere between 12 and 17 million left in the bond money. So I'm trying to understand this. What I look at the schedule on this is that, you know, as, according to this schedule, it'll be started in 8 months from the end of this year. And so we've got to figure out, you know, where's that money coming from?
Sorry, Bill, I don't have it. It must be.
Okay,
I
mean, just,
I can send you my cost estimate.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'll know once we get into the design of the project, we'll further refine that number. The
Yeah.
16, 15, 8, or whatever it is.
Just looks a little bit low to me if you say 37.50 for a cubic yard imported fill and then placed, and then we also have these 8 structures in here that
Right.
will have to be operated. Is that not, am I not correct on this? When this thing gets built, then we have these 8 structures that are gonna have to be opened and closed, depend on the level in the Amite River, I presume, or
sir.
something like that.
And they're manual gates.
Yeah.
Just screw gates gonna be open and closed, so they're just a matter of our personnel going down them and down the levee and closing them one at a time.
Okay, so now I have one other question, which is, talks about post-environmental monitoring, and so I'm wondering is that, are we gonna have to monitor these wetlands in here that we're being
Yes.
impacted to make sure that these structures are being, the operation of these structures don't hurt any more wetlands besides, is that correct? So we won't really know, until some years after the project is complete?
That's correct.
Whether the environmental damage that we predicted is true.
Correct.
And we may have to mitigate that for some reason, is that?
Well, we don't expect that to be the case. As I said earlier, the system it's a passive system. We
Yeah,
don't have
but
a
is that the
pump. It's not-
purpose of the post-environmental monitoring?
That's correct.
Okay,
I mean, this system's gonna stay open. There's an operational plan that says when the water elevation, I don't remember what it was now, you recall, Bill, what the operational plan? Water
I think it's
elevation
around
on the outside.
4, I wanna say a 4 or 5,
Yeah.
it depends, I mean, it's
Right.
backwater off, flood
And-
stage at Amite River.
so I'm sorry I said I was finished, but I did have one. Speaking of the operation of that was that, and I presume that we have done the studies to make sure that this doesn't have any worsening effect on flooding within the system.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And also, I want to say, Pontchartrain Levee District, you know, we appreciate the fact that they're funding this, and they're welcome to participate at any other levels that they would like.
Okay, I got
We'll
me.
let
You
you-
finished, Bill?
I am.
We'll let
Thank
you express that directly to them.
Mr. Clore, I'm
I
tearing
tried
it
to get
up.
one.
Every time I see it.
I tried to get Monica, one of them to come with me tonight, but they said, nah, they figured that, they didn't want to, we figured this would be too much fun.
All right, Mr. Clore.
Yeah, Bill, I know you're real inquisitive about the project here, but the fact is, we've been working on it a long time. And,
Doesn't affect my curiosity.
yes, and would y'all please send him some information? All right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll
Okay,
send you the
finally,
cost estimate, and I'll send you the BC ratio, and I'll send you the number of
yes, if you
structures.
send it to him, send
And
it to
that- yeah.
everybody.
There's a,
In fact, we have it in
And-
one of the reports.
it's in a report, there's an executive summary.
Executive summary.
Yeah, executive
But
summary. in
finally,
that
I just
report.
want to say that the agreement that we have, that we've got pending here with the Punch Train Levy District is negotiable. Okay, we talked about this. Through the 10 years of trying to get this project moving forward, the costs have definitely changed, all right? The extension of the realignment has changed, bringing it further up and just grabbing a host of more people that we're going to try to protect. So, you know, everything, every part of it, the right-of-way acquisition, the wetlands mitigation, the engineering costs, the management costs, and the actual construction costs have all progressively went up with their own increments
Right.
based on that. And we do hold the door open to go back to the PLD and ask for some more, you know, responsibilities within this project.
I can tell you, the PLD, you know, appreciates Ascension Parish, and no secret, Ascension and St. Charles Parish are the biggest financial revenue generators to the Pontchartrain Levy District
Right.
to support their efforts. So they really are looking for and really want to do projects here in
Yeah.
Ascension Parish, like they've done in St. Charles
Right.
over the years. And it's just a matter of having this relationship where you can work, you know, together and get some things done. One thing I did not mention as regarding PLD is there are some other costs that they are absorbing. They're not reflected in my numbers. They're handling. We had some legal costs in part of our fees, which were legal issues that we would actually utilize. Dwight Poirier is the PLD's attorney. So there were issues as we moved through our project that we needed legal assistance on. So we had dollars in our contract for legal assistance through the course of the project. But PLD is paying for the right-of-way acquisition services, the legal, appraisal, and you know, those services directly, not through us, but directly to those parties. And the parties, Dwight's handling all the legal aspects, and GCR is handling all of the right-of-way acquisition effort. So their fees are being paid directly to those entities. They're not coming through us, and they're not reflected in my numbers
Right.
that I presented to you today. So there's some additional costs there. I don't know what that number is. You know, I don't. If you care to know, we can find it out. But it wasn't of any concern to us. I'm hoping they're making plenty of money.
Mr. Terry?
Okay, Bill, while you got Glenn standing there. I love all this. Where's my this on the Alligator Bayou
In
project?
fact, as soon as Glenn finished, I was going to talk about, that's my next subject. Two things that you'll find missing in this is, number one, the Frog Bayou, Fish Bayou Bluffs whole drainage issue and gates and everything else. And the other one is the Panama Conway, especially Panama dredging. PLD has said that they are interested in helping us on that. GSA has been talking to PLD about it, and we are in the process, Glenn and I, of working out the scope of both those projects, and that's going to be coming to you at the next meeting. Once we get the scope of those two, then he's going to put together a schedule identical to the rest of the schedules with some money involved and the time limits and stuff like this. And this is also what he's going to present to PLD, you know, to help secure some of
And
this stuff.
unfortunately, you get another schedule from me.
That's it. There actually be two more
And I
schedules.
get to stand up here and talk to you.
Right. So that is coming, and the main reason because they want to help out. GSA has to put together the scope and with us. The main part about that is that another engineering firm, H&TB, has already done a lot of the work for us, the modeling, the surveys of both those projects, of one project. Another firm has done a lot of the modeling of the Fish Bayou, Frog Bayou. They're pulling information in from that, so they know exactly how much work is going to be needed for them to do, so they can put cost on it. And that we're working all of that out right now.
So people need to understand that where we were is following the August event, we have started over.
Actually, yes.
I mean, I believe that's what I hear,
That's right.
because we have we realized, correct me if I'm wrong, that what we were proposing was not going to solve the kind of problem that existed in this event.
What we're doing in the area of Bluff Swamp is a restoration, a preservation, restoration of that system. It is not what we're proposing, and what to do in that system is not going to prevent any type of flooding that occurred similar to the August event. The only way that can happen is if the Ascension Parish and Iberville Parish provides a levee system through there to completely keep the overtopping of that road from occurring. And that's something that both mostly Iberville has to do. We only have a little small section of it.
Right.
And in fact, I can tell you right now that our project of redoing the locks, we will be putting in an elevation of that road within our parish, because we have to do that to meet up with the locks, the new locks we putting in. So at least our portion of what I guess the solution is will be done. We just have to wait and see what Iberville can do, and also a bigger project that was pushed 15 years ago, what we call the Old Shaw project with PLD, and that may come into back into the light, for us pushing that
Yes.
within 3 parishes, us, Iberville, East Baton Rouge. So we're still working on that end too. But for the time being, we just we looking at PLD helping us just doing the work in our parish right now. And that's what GSA will be involved with in putting together the numbers and the scope so they can get the money through PLD and have PLD agree. Say, we good with that, we'll sign off on it and I'll go do it.
That's, Bill's assessment is accurate, Terry. I mean, this will help. It's not gonna solve, just that one structure, Fish Bayou, is not gonna resolve all the issues in the Spanish Lake Swamp. And we are looking at, through PLD, the Bayou Manchac and Amite River issue. As Bill said back several years ago, the PLD spent, I don't remember, $5-6 million looking at Bayou Manchac and the Amite River. And of course, with the flooding that occurred in March and August, there's been a renewal of interest to look at the entire Amite River basin system. There's not one single project that you can go look at and say, this is the resolution to all the issues in the lower Amite River. I mean, it's got to start in the upper Amite River. The Comite is going to be probably, if it ever gets funded, will be part of the solution. But even it will not resolve all the issues on the lower Amite River. So part of our effort back several years ago with Shaw and CB&I was to actually look at we called it Eco Restoration Project, where you actually went up in the upper Amite River and restored the channel, the meandering channel, where all the gravel pit guys have gone out there and mined all the gravel, and the channel is a half a mile wide with no trees and no vegetation to slow that water down. It just barrels down to the lower end of the Amite River onto us, onto lower East Baton Rouge, lower Livingston, and Ascension Parish. So there's a renewal of the interest to look at that whole system now, not just a project-by-project basis. It's got to be a much more regional approach than just a single project approach.
I appreciate that. I really do. I just need to be able to offer my folks who
Correct.
sat in water for 5 weeks, who we did, heroic effort out there to cut the road down, get the, innovative technology used to try to get that water out of there. And I'm not criticizing anything by any means that was done. It was applauded,
Right.
widely. However, we've got to do something faster than what it looks to me
Right.
like we're going to be able to do with this holistic approach. So, what kind of relief do we get from a smaller approach?
You have 2 things. Again, the problem in that area, if you're looking at the event of August,
Yes.
okay, now the only thing is surge protection. Because basically that's what happened there, surge. You had a surge from the Amite River by your man shack, overtopping road getting into it. So it's surge protection. The only thing prevents surge protection is levee, is raising something to block it, keep it from going in. There's two ways of doing that in this area, but specifically in Ascension Parish. If you can get raising the road up with the help of or some kind of flood protection, be it sheet pile or whatever, to provide a protection from the surge and overtopping of the road, which has to be done mostly in Iberville Parish.
Correct.
Not us. Got a lot of opposition to that. The other thing, if you're looking just at our people, and that is a more, limited ring levee type system around the occupied area of Bluff Swamp, along Bluff Road, taking in Ridge Road, taking it all the way up close to 74, which is a modified ring levee type system that can be put in there and up to a certain elevation that will help stop the water when the water gets to that point.
Right.
Okay, now we're looking at that
That's
too.
my curiosity now, is where are we on
Yes.
ring levy?
We are looking at getting, trying to work up a cost of doing that work itself. I'm not even looking at the benefit costs for core permit and anything else. The main thing now is the feasibility from just a doable project.
Sure.
You know, is it possible to do it? What is the extent? What is the limits of the levy, starting, beginning and end? And put some kind of cost factor on it so we can get X amount of dollars. Because right off the bat, if that gonna cost us just the construction of it gonna be in the $15–20 million, but then, you know, it's something that we can consider before going any further. If that is in the $4, $5, $6 million, $10 million, well then I'll come back to y'all and we'll look at it and say, well, you know, it might be doable. Let's go to the next step of getting all the other costs that's associated with it, including permitting and mitigation. And then we'll try to make an intelligent decision to go forward with it or not.
Thank you
So,
so much.
okay.
Thank you so
About
much.
3
I
minutes
know
up?
that you know, the folks who
you're
live
3
back
minutes
there are as knowledgeable as anyone about this process. But what they
quick
just want
comment.
to know is that they're not
Comment,
being
not a
forgotten back there.
They're not, we're working on it, but we're taking one step at a time and trying to get some good information before we made a commitment, you know, to go forward with it.
Thank you so much, both of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Todd, go
Yeah, one quick comment. Bill, I'm gonna hold you to it. You made a comment earlier about that 15 million that we never had a change order. Well, we're gonna hold you to that change order on that project on the Law Ridge levy.
Law Ridge? I
To keep it at
guarantee
that 15 million.
If I'm still here working for you, we will not have a change order.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm gonna hold you to that comment.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate you.
Thank y'all, appreciate it.
Mr. Lawler?
Yes, and I just want to wait till Glenn was done. Thank you. Bill, we have an issue in Jefferson Crossing, not in the front there, but in the back on Westlake.
Absolutely.
I know you're
Been
aware of
having
that. Can we get together sometime in the next month and just try and figure out some
Sure.
plan of action there?
We do have a plan. We've been trying to get right away from another piece of property to redirect some of the flow that we think is contributing to the overflow of that road itself. And it's in the process of right-of-way right now. I think 11 acres or something like this is toward the northwest of that road.
Okay.
And if we can do that, we can redirect it to Charleston and into the big ditch and then across 73.
Okay, good. I mean,
so
they flood.
We're gonna try to
It's once a
fast
month
track
for them.
that right-of-way.
Okay, in fact, their gentleman emailed me tonight, he's missing a flight because he can't leave his house.
Yeah.
Every time it rains like that, can't leave their house.
Appreciate it. We'll
Thank
get,
you.
definitely get that for you, Mr. Aaron. Is there any other drainage report?
I do. Y'all wanted information. We're gonna hand out, this is just for your review. We don't have to talk about it. What it is some, from Cartograph, is some of the work orders in your district. So she's handed out per district. And, so just keep it, look at it, review it. We don't have, start dates on some of it because it came straight from Cartograph, but at least you have something in your district, what was done recently and what's on the books. And the items that is there is listed as per when they were called in. Will be revised later to reflect a schedule similar to the schedules that y'all saw for projects. But we'll have similar type schedules as for work orders with a lot more information for start-stop dates and some more on costs.
Too many.
4. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, again, this is not, we don't have to talk about it, it's just
Yeah, let's.
for your
this.
review and see what's going on.
Fill up.
Okay? That's all I
Thank you,
have.
Bill. Mr. Sadler, you had.
Yeah, just real quick, this meeting's really getting long in the tooth, and I'm sure we all want to go home. You had mentioned before we got into the big stuff, pumps and levees and so forth, 4 or 5 inches is what I captured in my notes, Bill, heavy cell dumped in the Southwood Village area. That, of course, is in my district. I've gotten calls about it, and I'm also starting to get a lot of calls in the last 48 hours. People like myself, I rode past it today on 427, are seeing Bayou Manchac, and they're thinking another day or two of rain like we've been having, it's going to overtop the road. And obviously, they're very sensitive because, Perkins Oak, Bell Grove, St. Andrews, Magnolia Estates, Manchac Crossing, all those places, Manchac Place, all took water in the backs of their subdivisions in the quote, great flood. So my question is, and I'd like to be able to tell them, because they're asking, where are we on at least, we talked last time or the time before, hiring more crews. The number was bandied around of 25 or 30 more people to get rid of this 2-year backlog we have in cleaning ditches and so forth. I don't want to get a discussion again tonight whether they should be temps or whether they should be.
I could really comment real quickly on this, is that we're going forward, and that's something else we're going to be coming back to the commission with. We're actually going to contract out, similar to our road project, we're going to contract out subdivisions and dead-end streets into a project that we're going to hire somebody, a contractor to come in and clean those areas. That's something we can bid out. Again, that could be the biggest thing that we could be doing, and also our major channels. We were looking at doing our major channels on a rotation, back on another 10-year rotation. We actually going to come back to you probably at the next meeting with a request to actually contract out those projects.
This will be done, we have this list you just gave us, so that's people that are complaining. But so then you could have inspectors actually go out, let's say, some of the 5 or 6 subdivisions I just mentioned.
We got
take a look at all their ditches.
Right.
And say, look, we need to do this, we need to clean it out, we need to get it done and catch
Exactly.
up.
And I'll tell you, it'd be similar to, say, a road project, where we go in there and they take this whole subdivision, all the roads, and they rehab the roads. Well, it'll be a similar type project that we're gonna put together. But actually, when they go in there, they're gonna rehab the ditches, all the ditches along the roads, and change out the covers, do all of it at one time as a project. And we may even hire, several contractors and give each one of them several projects like that. And that's how we're gonna go in there and do a lot of work in a short amount of time. And that would be the biggest benefit to the people, because a lot of the problems is the road ditches, and where the drainage cannot get to the outfall ditches or to main channels, everything stacks up. That is one of the biggest things that we're going to be coming back at the next meeting with some estimates and permission to go forward with contracting out projects.
Very fine. And finally, I'm getting I'm a real I shouldn't say pushy. An individual who might be listening now is probably upset with me, but I'm trying to help. The Amite Basin Commission apparently holds regular meetings. Is the question I'm getting. And I think it all this all came about because of the Morning Advocate article. I'm sure everybody's read it about the Comeet River Diversion Canal off of the Amite having not been built, even though we're being taxed for 17 years, and other snagging of the same article talked about of Bayou Manchac per se and all. So this individual, and it was carbon with 4 or 5 others, wants to start going to Amite Basin Commission meetings. Is asking me where they're held. Are they open to the public? Can you get that information to me?
I can get it, Mr. Diekmore is part of their commission. It's usually in Baton Rouge, off of Sherwood is where the office is. I think that's where the meetings are. I'll get the more information for the schedule of meetings
It's open,
and the
obviously it's open
address.
to the public.
Sure.
Okay. Please do. Thank you.
Thank you. no more on the drainage report. We'll move on to number 7, authorization to add amendment number 2. Mr. Rue?
Yes, sir. I'm coming back to you, the commission to ask for amendment number 2 to the contract between Durable Pollen Restoration and East Ascension Gravity Drainage District to increase the compensation from a maximum of $275,000 to a maximum of $400,000 of 2017 contract, mainly for emergency repairs to additional work that they discovered on Summerfield Road. The last time I came, we had additional work. Now they find even more problems there. But also, I got enough money in here where I don't have to come back to you, at least in the next few months, hopefully. We do have other bridges that's coming online with some problems as we're discovering. And I want to increase it to $400,000 to make sure I got enough to take care of those things.
Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Any objection to the motion? This is in Mr. Kluwart's district. Is it the emergency? No objection. Motion passed. Number 8, authorization to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement. Mr. Root?
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Cagnalotti.
Yeah, Bobby Allen's a longtime resident of Ascension. He left the area for about 6 years, sold his house, and he's coming back. He bought a lot in Cessna subdivision right there off of Gold Place Road. And what he wants to do is
Motion
put in a
to approve.
bulkhead. Thank you.
Moved by Mr. Bill.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny Kay. Any opposition to the motion? Motion passed.
Good.
Number 9, acceptance of certificate of substantial completion.
Yes, sir. This was on the house demolition FEMA HMGP House Demo Program 1972-005-0001. Demo 14085 Forest Heights Subdivision, contractor John Tomplay, doing business at Land Services.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kluwart. Any objection to the motion? Not. Motion passed. Mr. Lambert, number 9.
Got it. Motion to
Moved by
adjourn.
Mr. Lambert. Second by Mr.
Cagnalotti.
Hurdy. Adjourn. Good.